Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Minutes accepted as circulated.
Oath of allegiance to new members, none. Announcements by direction of the Speaker.
Thank you. To make apologies on behalf of the Premier, who is out of office at this time. Thank you, members.
Papers, none. Reports from committee.
Members, this is the report from the Committee for Parliamentary Reform. I had asked the Deputy Speaker to lay this report this morning because I am the chair of this committee, and I think he's running a bit late, so I'll ask a member of the committee to please lay this report.
Madam Speaker, good morning. Good morning to my colleagues on both sides of the House. Okay, I stand reprieved.
Madam Speaker, my apologies. On the 11th August 2021, this Honorable House adopted Resolution 2/20/1/12 HOA establishing a select committee on parliamentary reform. I will read the text to the motion. Whereas in February 2020, the Anguilla House of Assembly became the 11th Commonwealth legislator to use the recommended benchmarks for democratic legislatures, and whereas the overall objective of the exercise was for our stakeholders to measure the progress of the Assembly in achieving democratic and good governance standards by comparing the practices of the Assembly to a set of benchmarks that have been developed and adopted by Commonwealth parliamentarians, and whereas the report of this assessment has been published and the findings thereof state, the Assembly remains handicapped by its limited access to financial and administrative resources, outdated standing orders, poor public engagement, and little to no transparency or independence. The existing parliamentary services are wholly inadequate to meet current or future requirements. Although the House of Assembly is a relatively new body, this should be deemed a factor, but not an excuse for its current situation. Mindful of our shared vision of an independent, efficient, and effective Assembly that is responsive to the aspirations of the people of Anguilla and actively participates in the transformation of Anguilla to meet those aspirations, and desirous of parliamentary reform and of achieving democratic and good governance standards for this and future generations of Anguillians. Be it hereby resolved that this Assembly establishes a select committee on parliamentary reform and as set out in the schedule of this resolution. The name of the committee shall be the Select Committee on Parliamentary Reform. 2, the committee shall be chaired by the Speaker, and in the absence of the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker. 3, the committee shall be comprised of the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, the Attorney General, Honorable Member for Valley North, Mr. Evans McNeil Rogers. Honorable Member for Single Island-Wide Electoral District, Mr. Joseph Vanterpool. Honorable Member for Valley South, Ms. Deanne Kentish Rogers. Honorable Member for Single Island-Wide Electoral District, Mr. Kenneth Hodge. And Honorable Member for Road South, Mr. Hayden Hughes. 4, the committee shall A, study the findings of the benchmark assessment, B, develop a strategy for the implementation of the various recommendations outlined in the report, C, oversee the implementation of the strategy by the House Services Department and other stakeholders, D, oversee the fulfillment of terms contained in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Anguilla House of Assembly MOU, E, engage in other related matters as they relate to the achievement of 3A, 3B, 3C, and 3D. 5, the life of the committee shall be for the duration of this assembly. Over the past year, the committee has met regularly to undertake the tasks assigned. With the assistance of the CPA headquarters, the committee has conducted a technical review of the rules of this honorable house. The first report laid before the assembly is a complete revision of those rules. We hope that this honorable house will consider favorably the proposal. The committee will in the coming week engage all members as well as the public on the details of the revision, and it is the intention of the committee at a subsequent sitting of the assembly to move to have the rules adopted. The committee would like to place on record our sincerest thanks to the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association headquarters, in particular, Mr. Matthew Salik, Head of Parliamentary Development, Ms. Lydia Buchanan, Programs Manager, Mr. Nicholas Beach, Clerk at the House of Commons. The committee would also like to thank Ms. Kerry Hasford, Parliamentary Counsel at the Attorney General's Chambers, Ms. Yusvan Brooks, Clerical Officer, and Ms. Vanisha Proctor, Clerk of Committees at the House Services Department. The next phase of the committee work will be to conduct a technical review of the organization and administration of the Assembly. Upon completion, the committee will likewise report its findings to the Honorable House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. And all members today should be proud that the Committee for Reform of the Rules of Procedure of this Honorable House are going to be laid before the House today. Thank you, members of the committee.
Petitions, none. Government notices, none. Unofficial notices, none. Questions, none. Motions, none. Other business, government business.
Just before motions, I know the Single Island-Wide Electoral District member, Mrs. Quincy Gomes Marie, requested in the last sitting to make a statement on a recent development, and with the leave of the Assembly, I would now allow that statement. Members? Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to present this special statement in the House of Assembly. Madam Speaker, my time here today will be spent speaking about COVID-19 and its impact on Anguilla, where we are now, what we have done, what we can expect, and what we can do to keep ourselves safe. Madam Speaker, on March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak of the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, a pandemic. It resulted in countries the world over shutting their borders. Since then, we have seen countries grapple with the difficult process of balancing economic, health, and social implications. Do you keep an airtight border, manage the virus locally, and survive on the limited activities of the national economy? Or do you open up your borders completely, benefit from the economic opportunities of limited restrictions, and accept that sickness and death will occur. When faced with this decision, Premier Webster instructed his technical staff to work with the Ministry of Tourism and myself to find a way to jumpstart the economy in a way that prioritizes health. Since then, we have created our vacation bubble concept and was able to safely do so for almost 12 months. The bubble was featured in major news media, including the Washington Street Journal, CNN, Travel and Leisure, Travel Pulse, and more. In addition to this, lifestyle bloggers and social media influencers from across the world traveled to Anguilla to experience what we know to be the vacation bubble. As proud as I was to see hundreds of persons back out to work and welcome over 10,000 visitors to our shores, Madam Speaker, this level of activity is not enough to keep us going. In spite of the limited activity, we held on in hopes that we would be in a position to open our borders even more once we have more persons vaccinated. Madam Speaker, on 5th February 2021, you may recall yourself, the honorable members of this House, and other select members of the community gathering at the Princess Alexandra Hospital to be amongst the first in Anguilla to receive our first dose of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. Since then, and up to 4 p.m. of yesterday, 9,282 persons have received their first dose, and 6,936 persons would have been in receipt of their second dose. And while this is a number that we can be proud of, we are still short of our target. By all accounts, herd immunity for protection requires 70% and up of the total population to be vaccinated. Throughout this pandemic, we have benefited from having a small population. However, that small population also means that the 70% we need for herd immunity accounts for just about 100% of our adult population. Madam Speaker, I am saying this to make the point that we cannot become complacent. We need to do the work together to protect ourselves. Madam Speaker, when we look at the situation in Israel, a country that was hailed to be one of the safest countries in the world just a few months ago, we see that they are reverting to mask wearing once again. The reason? They did not reach herd immunity. Madam Speaker, in 2 days, we will enter a new phase in our reopening strategy. On July 1st, vaccinated visitors will arrive here on a test taken 3 to 5 days prior to arrival and will be tested on arrival at no cost. Once they take their entry tests, they will be allowed to roam. For the first time ever, there will be no quarantine upon entry. This is a major step in our reopening strategy, one that I am very proud about. We are aware, though, that vaccinated persons can still be carriers of the virus and contract the virus without risk of serious illness and death. Let me reread that, sorry. We are aware, though, that vaccinated persons can still be carriers of the virus and contract the virus with the risk of serious illness and death being significantly reduced. With the introduction of the new Delta strain, which may become the dominant strain in the US by the end of July, we have to be vigilant. And by vigilance, I mean we have to continue mask wearing, social distancing, frequent hand washing, and vaccination. The Delta variant is dominating countries because of its ease of transmission. Research have suggested that the more transmissible nature of this variant is due to mutations on the virus surface, allowing it to more easily attach to our cells. Madam Speaker, I cannot stress the importance of vaccination. We have to vaccinate. Vaccination is nothing new, and ensuring that each person residing on Anguilla has access to the vaccine has been a major priority of this administration. While across the world there are persons dying because they cannot access the vaccine, Anguilla, like other British overseas territories, have benefited from our constitutional relationship with the United Kingdom government. To further explain how blessed and well-positioned we are, consider this. Anguillians have received quicker access to the vaccine before even British citizens in the United Kingdom. And we were determined not to let them go to waste. Where persons were sick and shut in, we found them. We have drove around the communities across Anguilla, bringing vaccines to each district, brought vaccinations to grocery store parking lots and other areas where there are large gatherings, and provided drive-through vaccinations in the midst of a cluster outbreak. Our administering nurses has sacrificed long hours to ensure that we have access to this, and for that we thank them. On July 31st, our current vaccines will expire. But Madam Speaker, I am pleased to share that we have secured second doses for every person who received their first dose before July 31st. To be clear, Madam Speaker, any person who received their first dose before July 31st is guaranteed a second dose. This batch of vaccines that we have covered will also include coverage for persons turning 18 before the end of September. At a time where countries are considering the possibility of charging for the vaccine, we have access and coverage available to us right here, right now. Little Anguilla was amongst the first in the world to issue sophisticated vaccination cards where persons can access their vaccination records by simply scanning a QR code. That is a tremendous advantage to all persons who would have been vaccinated in Anguilla. You may notice that I mentioned earlier that there will be a test for re-entry. Sorry, there will be an entry test for vaccinated persons. In a special executive council meeting on Friday, we realized that this was a necessary step, in part because we have not reached herd immunity. Additional testing will be the cost that the people of Anguilla will have to bear. Additional protocols is a cost that the people of Anguilla will bear. Increasingly sick persons will be a cost that the people of Anguilla will bear. Death as a result of COVID-19 is a burden that we will all bear together if we do not vaccinate. Madam Speaker, this is a reality, a sad reality. We have to make the right decisions or suffer the unavoidable consequences. We must vaccinate. Vaccinate for ourselves, vaccinate for each other, vaccinate for the economy. Madam Speaker, people sometimes cringe when we say vaccinate for the economy. But when the government has a shortfall of approximately $23 million due in whole to the limited economic activities and restrictions because of the COVID-19 virus, we cannot pretend that our economic reality does not exist. To give you two examples, most rental agencies have not licensed their rental fleets due to the fact that persons visiting Anguilla will have to wait 2 weeks to access rentals, and they realize that there is no economic benefit to licensing their fleets until there are enough persons to utilize them. Another example would be the ferry boat operators between Anguilla and French side St. Martin, who have not been able to have their boats in water since March of 2020. Vaccinate for them, because we owe to them the opportunity to return to business as usual. Madam Speaker, I will end by begging the persons who are listening to vaccinate. And if you are vaccinated, reach out to persons who you know are still hesitant or maybe are even opposed to vaccination and encourage them to vaccinate. Because your lives, their lives, and the overall well-being of our country literally depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. I now make.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, if I may, I do apologize. This is unorthodox, but pursuant to Section 13 of the Legislative Assembly rules, I just have, I would first of all like to thank the Single Island-wide member for the comprehensive presentation that she had made. But I have a question just in terms of the announcement that she has made in relation to persons coming in will have to take a test. And my question, Madam Speaker, is whether or not persons are allowed to roam before the results come back, or are they allowed to roam even pending the results? And Madam Speaker, I would be grateful if that question would be answered. Thank you.
I think that is an important question. So if you would have answers, I would be happy to entertain that. But this is not a question and answer period. There is a section provided for questions, but I do understand the importance.
Madam Speaker, the response to this is one that is still being considered by EXCO. In this position, although I am aware of the response, I would prefer to wait until Executive Council reaches a decision, and I will take it upon myself to communicate this to the Leader of Opposition directly.
Thank you. Okay, just to make apologies for the absence of the Honorable Attorney General, who is not well today. We pray for his speedy recovery. Also, I know this is graduation season, and I know the member for Valley South has to attend the graduation today, so you will be excused as soon as you can, yeah? Thank you. May continue.
Other business, government business, a bill for trades, businesses, occupations, and professions licensing amendment bill 2021, second reading.
The Honorable Single Island-wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Kyle Hart, is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled A Bill for Trades, Businesses, Occupations, and Professions Licensing Amendment Act 2021 be read a second time.
All right, so second.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I wish to read Section 2, Clause 2 of the bill. The Principal Act is amended by inserting the following new section after Section 13. Business engaging in specified activities required to form a company or limited partnership. 13A, where an activity listed in subsection 2 is being carried on by a business, and this business is owned by more than one person, such business shall be a company or a limited partnership. 2, the activities referred to in subsection 1 include the operation of distribution and service centers, the operation of headquarters, fund management, financing and leasing, shipping, and lastly, intellectual property businesses. These are the sectors, Madam Speaker, that will fall under this amendment. And 3, where a business referred to in subsection 1 makes an application for a license under this act, the application shall be accompanied by the following. A, the articles of incorporation, where an application is made by a company, or B, where an application is made by a limited partnership, the partnership agreement, and a copy of the certificate of registration issued by the registrar. So just to give some context of what this amendment is, Madam Speaker, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, member. It has been moved and seconded that this bill be read. And now I invite debate. Members wishing to make a contribution may now do so on the merits and principles of this bill. No? Floor is open for contributions. Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Joseph Vanterpool is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning to all of my colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this bill this morning. As would have been explained for the reason for these abrupt meetings, we're essentially here today as a matter of formality. This is a bill that needs to be passed in order to make sure that we stay off the EU blacklist, if I'm made to understand correctly. How I feel about that is necessarily neither here or there, but that does make me think back to that debate I did reference some time ago about whether or not blacklisting is a modern form of colonialism, because here we are, we have no choice or be blacklisted. But nonetheless, some of the policies that end up coming out of these situations where countries are forced into compliance aren't always a bad thing. They are usually a form of progression in some cases, and they tend to try and eliminate corruption and move business and the way business is conducted generally in the right direction. Madam Speaker, you would have mentioned earlier, we are all happy as members of the Committee of Parliamentary Reform, because after all of the weeks and months of work that we've been putting into reforming the rules, we finally have a finished product that, again, reflects some kind of forward progression and evolution from where we once were. And again, we have to thank the CPA for that, for their assistance and their guidance in helping us to move this institution forward. But Madam Speaker, while we're here today to discuss a bill that's moving Anguilla forward, something was brought to my attention this morning where 2 days from now, the only thing that's gonna happen is not just Anguilla opening up and changing our policies. According to a notice that was put out this morning on the Facebook page by the Anguilla Customs Department, 2 days from now, they will no longer be accepting electronic invoices as proof of purchase. You're now required to present a physical hard copy printed sheet. And Madam Speaker, it feels that while we're here to take a step forward in this regard, in terms of progression, in terms of development from a government standpoint, from an environmental standpoint, from a sustainability standpoint, this feels like it's a step backward, a step in the wrong direction. Madam Speaker, we would remember that the budget debate in December would have been quite short. But my contributions here in this honorable House in the budget debates of 2020 and 2019 were heavily focused on the concept of moving government towards more streamlined processes, more e-services, digital services, and essentially doing away with the traditional pen and paper methods of the yesteryear. Madam Speaker, my experience as an IT manager has taught me, if not anything else, that paper and ink is very expensive. And to be honest, I don't understand the rationale behind this change. If it was a situation where it was to be put in place to stop fakes, people faking invoices on electronics. Well, Madam Speaker, the same effort that's made into faking an electronic document, all you're doing is adding a process of printing that same fake document. This will do nothing in terms of regulating real versus fake business. Is it a matter of record keeping? Well, after seeing this post, I saw a business owner share his thoughts on Facebook based on his experiences. And it turns out that after providing this hard copy that you're now required to do, they simply attach your receipt to it and give it back to you. What's the point of that, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, I myself do not own a printer. You yourself would know, because as we as the Assembly are trying to set an example and move towards progress in government, we are striving towards how we can move towards being paperless as an Assembly. Madam Speaker, I am here today, I don't even have any of the documents printed before me, and this is the norm. There is no need for me to require the Assembly to print paper, to waste ink, to waste money, when I have my documents with me on my laptop and my iPad, and I know that if I want to reference them later, that is where I will go, not to the printed sheets. So for persons like me now, essentially this is not only an additional hassle, I now have to find a printer whenever I want to go and deal with customs, which is an incentive for me not to deal with government, one of government's offices. It's a hindrance to revenue coming in. For the business owners, this is an additional step in the process, not to mention the cost. It's just an additional step in an already convoluted and complicated process. And Madam Speaker, don't get me wrong. This is by no means a reflection on the customs officers or the civil servants who are just doing their duty within a system. But the system itself is flawed. So as we come to this House and we continuously look at ways as elected members to move the country forward in a positive direction, I think that we need to address situations like this where sometimes it seems that we may be taking a step backward. Were it not for the timing, Madam Speaker, because as I said, this was this morning, I may have asked a formal question, but seeing that the announcement was made, I would leave it up to government because I'm sure some sort of explanation will come at some point for the rationale behind this. But I just wanted to put it out there publicly on the record because already a lot of business persons across the island have expressed their dissatisfaction with this. As I said, I don't see the rationale behind it. I see it's making the process more difficult for what measurable gain I am not sure of. I'll wait until we get more information as to why this decision was made. But I would just like us to potentially revisit this as we try to move Anguilla forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Jose Vanderpool. Are there any other contributions? Honorable DG, Deputy Governor, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't want to prolong this narrow issue, but just to say, as the head of the public service, I have reached out to the Controller of Customs to try to understand exactly what transpired in the rationale for this decision, because I do know this has generated quite a bit of chatter on social media and elsewhere. So we are assuring the members of the House that we are taking some steps to see exactly what the situation is and to address it accordingly. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you also, Member. Are there any other contributions? If there are no other contributions, Member for Road South is recognized.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. I apologize for stepping out. I stepped out to actually call the Comptroller of Customs to find out why we moved towards, to my mind, retrogressive move as it relates to customs and electronic reporting. I was unfortunately I was not able to get in, but sometimes it is, and I'm sure that three of the colleagues on the other side of the political aisle would appreciate that government and ministers of government and members of government, elected members of government, does not always know what is transpiring in each particular department. And just as the Honorable Single Island-wide Representative, Mr. Joseph Van der Poel, found out about this, we too on this side found out about this. So as the Honorable Deputy Governor have made clear, he too will try to inquire as to why this move was made with a view of addressing it in the quickest, shortest order. So I just wanted to be clear that this was not a directive by the political directorate, because as you can appreciate, we have some very young, innovative individuals on this side of the divide who is very keen on moving towards e-governance and have been working diligently, in particular the Honorable Parliamentary Secretary and the Honorable Minister of Economic Development, Mr. Kyle Hodge, have been working very hard to move towards that goal. So we will get to the bottom of it, and as soon as we get to the bottom of it, I will reach out to the Honorable Van der Poel to update him as it relates to why this is occurring. But rest assured, this is not a directive given by the political directorate, and I'm sure you can appreciate that, and I know the leader of the opposition would be very aware that this is the case. But again, just to speak on the bill, because that's a substantive bill that we are talking about, we kind of deviated from the discussion and debate that we are supposed to engage upon. I don't think that it's going to be any debate, because we all understand why is it we're here today. We had an emergency first reading. We went to public consultation yesterday, and here we are in the House today due to us possibly being blacklisted. But I also want to say this as it relates to colonialism and the fact that we emanate from that. There's also something called neocolonialism. And neocolonialism also takes into consideration the fact that those countries who were once colonies, even though they have succeeded in gaining their constitutional independence and somewhat political independence because of the world powers such as those that are part of the OECD and those countries that are part of the G8, those countries still enforce their political will upon those smaller countries, regardless of their political status. I can recall some years ago when President Barack Obama was the President of the United States, he had occasion to have a discussion with the Dalai Lama. And as you know, the Dalai Lama hails from Tibet. And Tibet in itself was seeking and continues to seek independence from China. And when he made it known that he was going to meet with the Dalai Lama, the President of China reached out and said to the President of the United States, if you meet with the Dalai Lama, that will have consequences on the US debt. So even today, the big United States of America is almost a semi-colony of China. This is how the world works, and this is why economic power means a lot. And this is why when we're talking about independence, we must talk about economic independence so that we won't be subjected to those countries that we borrow from, because whoever is the owner of your debt is your master, is your slave owner, and will keep you on the foot. So yes, it is that this bill that we come to the House today is to prevent us from being blacklisted. But I am more than sure that if Jamaica, or Taiwan, or St. Kitts Nevis, or Barbados did not comply, those countries that are part of the G8 will start to speak about sanctions and the like. Because, Madam Speaker, you can recall some years ago when Jamaica was moving to decriminalize marijuana, Madam Speaker, something that the Honorable Deanne Kentish-Rogers and the Attorney General is working diligently on right now as we speak. And they were talking about decriminalizing marijuana. And the Clinton administration said that if you decriminalize marijuana, we will impose travel restrictions on Jamaica, Madam Speaker. That is the power where might is right, where these powerful countries dictate to those countries that don't have the ability to be able to be self-sufficient. And that is why Cuba is where it is today. And we can all celebrate with the Castro regime and the regime with Cuba, who has been able to come up with a 3-shot vaccine, Madam Speaker, that has a high efficacy rate, somewhere in the region of 92%. That in itself, that is perhaps one of the only independent countries in the world, Madam Speaker, Cuba. So I just want to join my colleague in supporting this bill. We know why this bill is here, and I also join my colleague on the other side of the divide because he has also supported this bill with a full knowledge and understanding of why we are here today. So I just want to lay that on the table and add some clarity to the situation and the situation that our honorable esteemed colleague on the other side raised this morning. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Road South. Are there any other contributions? If there are no other contributions, I invite the mover to respond, please.
Madam Speaker, thank you. And I say thank you to the members of this House for their support. Madam Speaker, because of the rapid pace in which we had to progress this amendment through the House, I wish to explain a little further for the benefit of the people of Anguilla who are listening and who are watching. Madam Speaker, this amendment to the Trades, Businesses, Occupations, and Professions Licensing Act promotes transparency and accountability. And it is something, Madam Speaker, that this government is requiring also at the local level as well. Because for years, Madam Speaker, we have had the issue with fronting of people applying for partnerships and not having any real shares in that business, not having the requisite paperwork for those businesses, just signing an application form and that is it. That is all that was required to say that you're in partnership with someone else. That is not right, Madam Speaker. This not only robs that individual whose value is just a name on a piece of paper, but it also robs other legitimate businesses. So in the new business license regime that is undergoing a serious overhaul at this time, and we've been working at it for an entire year now, when that is enacted, it will also cover this amendment. This amendment today, Madam Speaker, it addresses a small cross-section of businesses in Anguilla that are involved in partnerships. It's an amendment that satisfies the EU and will allow us to not be blacklisted. It will allow us not to be publicly shamed, Madam Speaker. Our counterparts, though, in the BVI, was not required to amend their legislation pertaining to partnerships. And that is because, Madam Speaker, their legal framework does not raise any concerns in that aspect. It's because of how their business licensing regime works. They already, Madam Speaker, requires when 2 or more persons are conducting business that there must be a legal arrangement, something that is missing from our regime. But something that we will fix, Madam Speaker, next month we'll be coming to the House of Assembly to pass the new business license regime. We believe strongly, Madam Speaker, and we campaigned on it. We believe strongly in transparency and accountability. And the EU didn't have to tell us this, because even before this came up, Madam Speaker, when we began as a government working on the new business license regime, this was something that we made a priority. So, Madam Speaker, I thank you for the time, and I thank the members for their support in this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Single Island White Electoral District Member, Mr. Kyle Hodge. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled Trades, Businesses, Occupations, and Professions Licensing Amendment Act 2021 be now read a second time. Those in favor, say aye. Those against, say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to amend the Trades, Businesses, Occupations, and Professions Licensing Act, Revised Statutes of Anguilla, Chapter T40, second reading.
Under Rule 54 of the Legislative Assembly Rules of Procedure, the bill now stands referred to a committee of the whole assembly to be considered clause by clause. Assembly in committee.
Clauses 1 to 4.
Clause 1 to 4 through for consideration. Put the question that clauses 1 through 4 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor, say aye. Those against, say no. The ayes have it.
The title and enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and the enacting clause do stand part of the bill. Those in favor, say aye. Those against, say no. The ayes have it. The schedule? No. Thank you. The Assembly will now resume its sitting.
Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the bill, shortly entitled Trades, Businesses, Occupations, and Professions Licensing Amendment Act 2021, has passed through committee stage without amendment and is ready for its third reading.
A bill for Trades, Businesses, Occupations, and Professions Licensing Amendment Act 2021, third reading.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill, shortly entitled Trades, Businesses, Occupations, and Professions Licensing Amendment Act 2021, be read a third time and passed.
Is there someone to second?
Madam Speaker, I second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled Trades, Businesses, Occupations, and Professions Licensing Amendment Act 2021 be now read a third time and passed. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
A bill for Trades, Businesses, Occupations, and Professions Licensing Amendment Act 2021.
Bill read a third time and passed.
Adjournment.
Speaker, I rise to ask if the House can adjourn at this time. Senator. Oh, anybody has a calendar? What's that? 13th? July 13th, 2021. Thank you very much, Clerk.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that this honorable House stands adjourned until July 13th at 10 a.m. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. this honorable house now stands adjourned until July 13th at 10 a.m. Thank you, members. Have a good day.